There we go. Welcome to Out of Continues episode 276. That's a big number. And this is week 4 of Game Design Month. Honk, 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 honk. Air horns. I'm so good at sound effects. This is a weekly podcast posted up every Monday in which we talk about video games and related topics. I am your host, Staffa. Y'all know who it is. And this week I have Adrian, a.k.a. James Portnow, a.k.a. Adrian.
Oh, come on. I've shaved a lot since then.
Congratulations, Adrian, on your recent graduation.
Thank you, sir.
And we also have Noah.
Hey, how's it going?
You're new to the show, Noah. And I
am.
don't have the rapid fire interview questions on the outline for you. I completely forgot to put it on there. But yeah, but we're on a tight schedule, so we're gonna get through this without the rapid fire interview questions. We're gonna break tradition. I know we're
Sounds
crazy on here.
That's fine with me.
We'll just have to
do-
do them next time.
Yeah, we'll do it next time you're on the podcast.
Sounds good.
No one escapes the rapid fire interview questions.
All right. Well, I'll go through it later then.
All right. So this week's episode segments will include our main game design topic, which is on playtesting. That is exciting stuff. That makes my eyes bulge out.
It is an enjoyable thing to do.
After that, we got some quick announcements and our main. We got some quick announcements and then we got a few news topics to cover. But before we go into all that, quick disclaimer that all opinions expressed on this show are of our own and not of our employers, whether past, present, or future. Hashtag don't fire Staffa.
Don't fire,
Fire
anybody.
Noah either. No one likes his job.
So let's move on and let's talk about our main topic, which is playtesting. And playtesting is an essential part of game design. That's what we're talking about it. And before we like start talking specifically on game testing, I just want to point out that there are like 4 main types of testing when it comes to games. There's like focus groups, which are basically when a studio brings in people who are like fans of a specific type of game or fans of their previous game, etc., and they ask them questions to see whether they will like or dislike a game idea that the company is considering. There's QA testing, quality assurance testing, that is also different from play testing. Quality assurance or QA testing, also known as bug testing, is when people go through the game looking for bugs. And this is more specifically for video games, less often for board games.
I'm going to have to disagree.
You're going to disagree? All right, can you school me on this one?
So when you do playtesting for a board game, I mean, that's how you find things like broken card combinations or just a power that was way more impactful to the overall game than you had originally anticipated.
Well, is that really bug testing?
Those are bugs that you find along the way.
I mean, I'd say that still falls under like actual play testing and not like QA testing, which is like, hey, is this game gonna save? Is this game gonna crash if I go to the end of the level? You know, things like that.
I'd say there's some, for example, like what Adrian said, there's some card combinations that you get potential crashes literally of your game, even in a board game.
Okay.
I mean, you can hit stuff where the game cannot continue because it's so out of whack at that point. So I'd have to side with Adrian on this one.
All right.
I know there's a couple of infinite loops in Magic, so that definitely breaks your game.
Yeah. All right. You've convinced me. The third type, usability testing, that would be like determining whether your interface and systems are intuitive and easy to use. And finally, playtesting, and what we're going to talk about, and that is to see if the game generates the experience that that the game was designed to do. So yeah, let's start going and talk about playtesting.
Let's go.
So I broke down a few questions that you want to ask while playtesting, and these are mainly from Jesse Schell's book, The Art of Game Design. Let me show this lovely piece of um, literature on the screen for those of you who are interested.
I know you were telling me about that last night, so I need to check that one out.
Yes, it is. It is a very nice read, and these are like questions that you want to ask while playtesting a game. And the very first question you want to ask is why? Why am I playtesting? Adrian, why are you playtesting?
Why am I personally playtesting?
Yes, why are you playtesting?
I am playtesting to make sure that the games that I am working on don't have any completely abusable plot holes, or, well, more rule holes than plot holes, but you need to... When a designer's playtesting, they're playtesting more for the overall experience of the game than for the individual pieces at the beginning. You need to make sure that the concept that you've laid the concrete down for is fun and enjoyable before you start going in and tinkering with all the nuts and bolts. Because if you start making a game and you fine-tune it all the way from the beginning and try to do like a first draft and ship it, and then you play it and it's just no fun, then you've wasted all of your time to make just pretty much something no one's going to play.
Mm-hmm. Noah, why are you playtesting?
So I actually take a kind of a different approach than Adrian does. When I go to start playtesting, well, this is assuming that you have at least a base concept of your game down. But I generally try to playtest with the intention of breaking the game so thoroughly that I can rebuild it with even more structure to it, so that I've thought through and broken down every single possible component that somebody else could break, so that they can't break it in the future. I can account for every broken possibility. And contrary to what Adrian said of going at the nuts and bolts to begin with, fine tuning it all the way as tightly as possible. And I prefer to do that and then bring the fine-tuned structured concept and then apply a theme or the narrative over the top of it that actually is engaging with your final players. But you have the structure laid down first is just a different approach. I think both approaches are completely valid. It's just a different way of approaching things.
Yeah, I mean, like what both of you guys said are right. There is really no wrong answer to why you're playtesting. Like when you ask why am I playtesting, you're basically putting down a list of things that you want to figure out as about your game. You want to learn more about your game, then that's basically why you're playtesting. For me, when I playtested, I wanted to learn is the level going to guide the players without really holding their hand? Does this puzzle make sense? Can the player figure out the puzzle? Is it fun? Is it boring? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? Like just any of the above are valid reasons as to why you're playtesting. Is the game broke?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other things you guys want to add to why before we move on to the next question?
I think you pretty much nailed it on the head with why you play test. The biggest and most important question to me will always be, is it fun? Because that's ultimately the core of what makes a game, is that it's fun to do. So from there, it's really what kind of fun are you trying to generate, and are you effective in generating it in a new and original way?
Yeah. So next question is who? Who is going to play test the game? And I pretty much got out of Jesse Shell's book 4 different types of people that you can find. First being the developers that are working on the game, and that's because you, the person who's developing the game, you can play test it yourself, right? I mean, Adrian, when we worked together on Return of Etheria, War of Realms, I mean, we did play testing on our own before we had other people play test, right?
You got to do your first preliminary check before you send it out, because you don't want to just send somebody something that's complete garbage. Then you look bad.
Yeah. I mean, the pro to having a developer play test is that developers are literally right there, easy to get to. But the con to having a developer play test is the developers are too close to the game. So always take developers' input with a grain of salt. One issue that I had when I was personally playtesting my own stuff is that I played the game or the level the way how I was expecting it to be played. I wasn't going in with a fresh set of eyes. It's like, okay, I know that this puzzle is going to be done this specific way. So, I don't really have a good amount of input on whether it was a good puzzle or not. Did you guys have like similar experiences, Noah?
Yeah, definitely, very much so. I mean, I have much more experience doing development for tabletop games, but same concept still applies. Of when I'm approaching a game design that I'm working on and play testing it and trying to iron out some different components of it, if I've been staring at this thing for the last 3 days, then I'm going to miss stuff that someone looking at it with a fresh set of eyes is going to be like, well, what about this huge hole in your game design? Like, oh, I didn't even see that, because I've been assuming a bunch of things that I've already mentally worked into the design that weren't actually there. So actually, that's one of the reasons why Adrian and I work so well together, is because he'll come and look at this and be like, but what about that? And what about that? And what about this? And then we can go back and forth and work through all of the holes that are unseen because I've been staring at it for so long. I've just assumed things that weren't actually documented there and that weren't actually in place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a really good way of putting it. The developer assumes things, and that's completely true. The next group would be friends. The pro to having friends play test is they're usually easily available. I've had friends play test my stuff. The con, though, is that friends, they might not want to hurt your feelings. Have you guys had experiences where you have friends play test and they're not really very critical because they don't want to hurt your feelings?
Oh, absolutely. That happens all the time, especially with family, because they'll always want to. Your friends and your family always want to encourage you, to make you believe that you can always be the best, but beliefs don't get you places. You have to be willing to do the work and to be willing to take the criticism that something is wrong with your product. And the people who can give you that kind of just honest look and say, look, this game has a good basis, but you've got some real critical flaws in it, is going to be far more valuable to you than someone saying, oh, you're doing a really good job with this, I want to see where it ends up. Because then you'll know what you can fix. You'll have a targeted approach to your broken design, as opposed to someone just glossing over everything and not really paying attention and just hoping for your best.
Yeah. Let's move on. Next group, expert gamers, which Jesse Shell put as expert gamers. You can also say gaming enthusiasts or just gamers. The pro to having them playtest is that most likely they have experience with playing games similar to yours. The con, though, is they might be just hard to find. Just finding someone who is very experienced in that the specific game that you're designing. Do you guys have experience with gamers? I mean, like I think that they're probably like the most ideal playtester that you want to find as far as getting a target audience at least. If you want your game to be more for hardcore at least.
So I've actually had some positive experience working with what I would consider expert gamers or game enthusiasts, but I've also had some negative experiences of actually the same kind of an idea of what Adrian was just touching on with friends and family, is that I've actually had experience of what I would consider expert gamers play test a game and give me really good, solid, constructive criticism on the design and actually really good input in how to develop it in a positive way. But I've also had some people who want to just encourage you in your craft and don't really give you much useful information back. They're just like, oh yeah, this is a good job. It needs work, but you're doing really good, which, I mean, that's nice to hear, but it doesn't help me at all. It doesn't get me anywhere. I can't make my game better off of you're doing a good job. I can make my game better off of this piece could be reevaluated and be readjusted to work better. So yeah. I've had a little bit of both sides, actually.
It's not very constructive when you're not given direction as to what can be improved.
Exactly.
I know that when we were showing our board game, The Big Score, at Comic-Con and PopCon, and then to places like it's a now closed game store, Heroes Emporium. They were an excellent place for hosting us. We got to sample a bunch of different types of people, not just gamers, and got to appeal to a very wide berth of audience. Mm-hmm. So that allowed us to get feedback from multiple directions of what people consider to be fun, because it's like you said, we approached it from our point of view every time, like what is fun to us. So we got to have we got like hundreds of people come and play the game just to see what we had going on.
And that also applies to the visuals of a game as well, especially for I think a tabletop game. The artwork on it is actually one of the things we got a lot of feedback on, that we, coming from our backgrounds, the artwork was perfect. It is exactly what it should be. But then from other people coming from an external position, didn't really think it meshed well with the game because they were coming from a place that wasn't assuming it was already the right artwork for this game. So even applies to your visuals of a game as well as the actual game design.
The final group, this is what the industry likes to call as tissue testers. And these people, tissue testers, are described as ideal testing conditions include people who have never seen the game before. So this is basically when you get like a brand new, fresh set of eyes to play test the game. And that's the pro. That's they're a fresh set of eyes that will notice things that the developers have gotten used to. And the con is games are played multiple times over many sessions. That's just in general. So you're only testing for the first impression of the game when you use tissue testers. And when I was working on my senior project, Beware the Bully, I used a lot of tissue testers because I would take the feedback from the latest group who tested my game. I'd make the adjustments, and I wanted to make sure that those changes have improved the direction of the game. Because one thing I wanted to make sure with my game was that when people played it, they understood what they're supposed to do, they understood where they're supposed to go, and you can't get that impression of somebody if they've played the level 10 times already. So I needed to get a fresh pair of eyes each time just to make sure that, these new people who have not seen the game yet, it might be version 25 of the game, but the new people can play through it and be like, okay, I understand exactly what to do. I have a grasp of the controls, and just go from there. You guys have experience with tissue testers with testing your games?
That was actually one of the best things we got from going to the conventions. Is that, like I said, we had almost 300 people stop by the booths in total between the two conventions to stop and test the game out, and it allowed us to get both feedback on how easy the rules were to digest upon first being taught the game, and how people reacted to the overall content of the game and what the objective and everything was. And just through that, we knew that people loved the cooperative atmosphere behind the game. They thought that was awesome straight off the bat. And we knew that you needed to teach them the game one time. The rules just stuck with people. We never had to explain the game more than 3 times to somebody.
Nice. Let's move on. So we asked why. We asked who is going to play test. Next is where are you going to play test. And this can be a multitude of places, whether it's in a gaming studio, a playtest lab, Marla, a public venue, which can also be, I guess, a convention as well, playtester's home, or even on the internet. With me personally, I've mainly had people playtest in a public venue, which was at a convention, playtesting lab, which is the school's media arts, and what's the
Media Arts Research Learning Arcade.
Yes, there we go.
Marla.
Media Arts Research Learning Arcade. And on the internet, I used that a lot as well because I couldn't just I don't know, at the time I was with my parents and I wasn't going to just invite people left and right just to go in my room and play the game. So I just sent a build of the game to people and had them play over the internet. And if they're able to record their playthrough, then that was really helpful since I can't really watch people play over the internet when it's a single player game with no net capabilities. But yeah, I mean, you guys want to add any input on the different types of places, or just move on?
Well, I know we covered that the convention was an excellent place for us to do play testing. You mentioned back when we did Return of Etheria, the play testing we got to do in Marla with a lot of tissue testers from students coming through to just try out the different kinds of mini games we had been coming up with. And then when you're playtesting, don't keep it at home and to your friends and to your school. Take it out. If you really care about your game, take it to somewhere like a game store, and you're gonna have to expose it to people. You need to get honest opinions, and they might be brutal, but you got to have the thick skin to take it.
Yeah, you got to take it to people who aren't going to care to hurt your feelings, like we were talking about earlier. You have to show it to someone who's going to tell you what they think, regardless of how you might react to it. Otherwise, you're going to get "you're doing a good job, keep going" response, and you're not going to get anywhere.
That is some of the least helpful criticism that you can get is,
absolutely,
it needs work, but this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. But where does it need work?
Yeah, exactly.
You can say that about literally anything in the world. It's not bad, but it needs work.
Yeah. Next is the what. And this is what you will look for in the playtest. So first and foremost, what you're looking for is the questions that you asked during the why. Why are you playtesting? To find out all these things. So all those things that you listed off, that's the first things that you're gonna look for during the what. And after that, including that, it's gonna be things that you don't know that you're looking for. And basically, if you watch the player play testing your game, you need to jump on anything that stands out of the ordinary, whether it's good or bad. This person really liked this moment of the game. Why? This person is having a hard time understanding this. Those are things that you got to jump on that you might not have been thinking about beforehand. Adrian, you want to add anything to that?
I can definitely agree with that, because when I was testing my my capstone game, Red Seas, through the first couple of games that I had played of it, I noticed that players weren't moving as fast as I wanted them to, and that was kind of it wasn't an initial intended test. I was just kind of observing the game from the side. And then I started to test more directly how much can a player manage at one time. And that's how I eventually divided down card abilities, because I had 4 different things that players had to juggle, and it was just too much. Players weren't able to maximize their potential every turn because they were too busy reading all of their cards. So I had to scale that all the way back down to 2 types, which was much more effective. And I noticed that players were having more fun with the game because they could read what they had and get moving. They weren't stuck reading for, a minute solid before they made their choices.
Mm-hmm. All right. You want to add anything, Noah, or should we move on?
Nope, I don't think I have anything to add. I think you guys pretty much covered it.
All right. And final question, the 5th question, Jesse Shell suggests that we ask is how? How should we play test? And there's so many factors that can alter the play test. Should you be present? Because just being there can either place pressure on the play tester, but if you are there, you can place pressure. If you're not there, then you're missing out on data that you can collect from watching the playtester. Do you tell them anything beforehand? Do you explain the game to them beforehand? Do you let them figure it out on their own? Where do you look? Do you watch the game? Do you watch the player's face? Do you go back and forth? What are you looking at? All those things can factor in the playtest. And what type of data should you collect? So how long did the player spend in the character creator, or how long did it take to defeat a villain? What's the average score? Those type of things that you can collect that type of data. Or do you even care about those things? Do those matter? You gotta think about what you want to do. Have you guys had different types of experiences while playtesting, as far as interacting with the playtesters or leaving them alone, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I think really, at least in my experience, the how you go about playtesting really is driven almost entirely by the what that you're looking for. So if you're looking for their initial reaction to a game and their initial response to just getting started with a game or a level, I think that drives how you present it to them and whether or not you are holding their hand through it. If you're trying to get back out of the play test, how well a player can just jump into it and figure it out for themselves, then you probably shouldn't be present, or at least not tell them anything about the game, present the concepts, or teach them anything about it. But if you're looking for more of the fine details of exact exact components of the game and how they're progressing, like you're saying, to beat a villain or the scores that they're getting. If you're looking for those more fine details, then I think it is more applicable for you to be present during the play test so that you can be watching those fine details happen. So I think really a lot of it comes down to what you're trying to get out of a specific play test, for exactly how you approach setting up your play test and presenting it to your potential player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. How about you, Adrian?
I think Noah pretty much nailed it on the head. Is in when you're playing when you're playtesting your game, you need to have at least some kind of a directive on what you're trying to look for. You can't just play the game and anything, at least not past your initial first couple games, you can't just play it and hope that a problem pops up. You need to have something that you're looking for, whether it's how fast the pacing of the game is, how long it takes a player to make decisions, time until objective completion, anything like that. You need to make sure that those are all being thoroughly examined so that you're not just trying to, I guess, organically develop your QA boards.
Yeah. When I was making some levels in Portal 2's user made content, I didn't watch anybody firsthand play through my levels, but I asked all the people who playtested for me to record a demo so I can watch through their demo, watch through their playthrough, and if they're able to record a video, then to also have their mic on and talk as they're playing. Like I specifically told them to just think out loud as much as you can so that I can at least understand why you're looking at this, or why you're doing certain things. And I feel like that helped me a lot when my playtesters did do that, when they spoke what they thought out loud, rather than just watching them try to figure out the puzzle without having their audio. That it still gave me data, but not as much data as when they thought out loud. But also, when you're collecting data, it's very encouraged to have the playtesters fill out a survey, like when they're done playing the game. Like I personally use SurveyMonkey, which is a free service to just make a survey. I think I used SurveyMonkey a little bit, and then I used I think Google has their own survey as well. Like either way, there's plenty of free services to like just make a survey and send them a link, and it'll collect the data for you. Whenever you make a survey, you should keep like the rating scale. Like if you say like how good was this portion or something like that, keep the rating scale to like a 5-point scale rather than a 10-point scale, because 10 points too broad. It like what the hell is the difference between an 8 and a 9? Like, okay, how difficult was this? It was an 8. What's that tell you? Or if you make it too simple, like thumbs up, thumbs down, that's not giving you enough data. I think 5-point scale is really good because 1 terrible, 2 not so good, 3 is okay or so-so, 4 is good, 5 excellent. Very simple, and it gives you enough data that you need. Don't put too many questions, or the people will tune out near the end of the survey. This also depends on how long the questions are. If your questions require an essay response, keep it to like 5 questions or something like that, because they're not going to want to answer them all. If you have short answer, then I don't know, 20 or so questions. It all depends on how long your questions are. And give the survey immediately after you have them play test. That way, everything's still fresh on their mind. And have someone there to clarify the questions, whether that's you or another developer, because sometimes people be like, "What does this mean?" I'm going to guess the answer now because I don't understand the question. Because people are like that. People are dumb.
People are very dumb.
Yeah. It also helps when you note the age and gender of the player so that you can um, uh, see if those things have any connection to the player opinions. See if that you can get like some kind of a demographic as to like who enjoys the game the most, why do they not enjoy the game, etc. Like maybe kids, the younger kids might like the game more because it's fast, or kids might like the game less because it's too difficult, etc. You know, if you could get like the understand the demographics opinion on your game, that can also help. And then maybe you can like kind of gear your game towards the people who do like the game the most, or gear it towards making it work more for the people that don't like the game, so you can try to make it them at least like a little bit. But you're never going to make everybody happy. That's the thing. You know what how the saying goes, you can please all the people sometimes, or not, or none of the people all the time. Or fool me twice, you're never gonna fool me again.
Something like
I'm
that.
sure it's something like that. Yeah, you might have duct taped a couple sayings there together.
So yeah, and also as far as surveys, don't don't take the survey data as gospel. Sometimes players make things up when they aren't sure, and this goes with you know, clarifying the questions, because if they don't understand the question, they might just make something up. But yeah, I mean, other than having surveys, you can also interview players. Whether you want to interview them before or after, like, or you do both. You know, interview them before a play test, do the play test, and then interview them after. And you know, make sure you have a script of questions. Interview people privately, because peer pressure might alter their answers. Playtesters will avoid hurting your feelings when you ask them in person, so keep that in mind. So to help to get them to one way to help get them to speak up better would be to say something like, "I need your help. The game has some problems that I can't figure out. So, boom. Explain the problem." Then they'll start going at it. Otherwise, it'd be like, if you say that compared to, "How do you feel about the game?" They'll be like, "It's good, but it needs work."
And it comes full circle.
Yes, right. Exactly.
It is absolutely important to pay attention to the way that you phrase your questions to your testers, because again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yes. Yeah. You have to have them understand that this is not going to hurt your feelings, you know, when they say something is wrong with the game.
I think it's also very important that you stand by the fact that you say it's not going to hurt your feelings. So when they give you constructive criticism, you need to respond like it doesn't hurt your feelings, even if it does. Otherwise, they're going to be apprehensive through the entire rest of the process, and you're not going to get good information again. So if they give you feedback, and even if they're harsh, which I've had some harsh playtesters, you need to take it as beneficial and take it as, I appreciate your criticism because it will make my work and this game better, and not be like, well, but I think it's fine in this area. I don't see why you think that's wrong. Like, don't get defensive, or they're going to get defensive, and then they're going to just shut down on giving you good feedback. And then you're going to get, well, it's good, but it needs work.
Exactly. Another thing while interviewing is to avoid memory tests. You're not trying to quiz them on your game. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Next thing is don't expect playtesters to be game designers. Don't ask if something should be harder. Ask them if something was boring, because basically, if people who don't study game design, they don't understand why difficulty curve needs to be there. If you tell them, should this be harder, they'll be like, no, it should be easier. The average player who does not study game design, they don't know better when it comes to a video game. Like if you give the average player the ability to be invincible in the game, they'll take it. But being invincible is not the best thing for them. That's the worst thing for them, because it takes away all the difficulty. So, like I said, don't ask if something should be harder. Ask if something was boring. And if yes, it is boring, then that equates to it should be harder. Ask for more than what you need. So instead of saying, like, what was your least favorite part of the game, ask something like, name 3 of your favorite parts. Because not only is it harder for the playtester to answer a question like, what's your least favorite part of the game, because they got to narrow it down to just one answer. It's also more information for you when you say, give me 3 of your worst parts or 3 of your favorite parts. It gives you more information, and it's easier for the playtester to answer that. And finally, as Adrian and Noah, you guys have been hinting at this multiple times throughout this discussion. Set aside your ego.
Definitely.
Don't defend the game if they tell you what's wrong. I know some designers feel like their game is their baby. It's not.
It's not.
It's not your baby.
It's a baby to you.
Yes.
But it's a creature to the world.
Exactly.
Sometimes not even a creature.
Like, sometimes you gotta learn to let go of something. You might think it's a brilliant idea, but you gotta drop it if it doesn't work. And that's why you have to set your ego aside. You can't just defend something that you think, oh, this is brilliant. They just don't understand it. It's good because of this. If you have to say it's good because, then you already lost your point. It is not good. Set aside your ego and take your criticism.
It's exactly what Adrian was saying earlier. Basically, you can have the most brilliant, most in-depth, most well-thought-out game design, but if it's not fun and you have no audience, then what is your game? It's nothing, because there's no one to actually experience the creation that you have presented. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. So that's just as important as having a solid game design, as having an actual engaging game design. Yeah. And being willing to let people tell you when it's not, and being willing to drop it, like you say, if it's not engaging. The fact of the matter is, you gotta let go.
It's a very sensitive and very weird line that you have to toe when it comes to game design, because you have to believe in your own work while being able to take criticism from others and be open-minded to it, while also considering that not every opinion should be 100% considered because of who the person is and in their relation to you, and how all of that has to balance and factor in against itself to your final game design output.
Mhm.
It's a fun game.
Adrian, you and I, we both worked on, well, together, we worked on the second Return of Etheria game.
Yes.
And you didn't even work at all on the first Return of Etheria game, right?
No, but I did on the third.
Yeah. So during the first one, I wasn't a game designer. I was just a project manager. So some of this carried over during the first meeting of the second game. But I'll get to that in a second. So during the first game, even though there were, I think it was 3 people. Yeah, 3 people that were specifically the game designers. Like, everybody kind of had their own say as far as how the game was supposed to be played, even though everybody was not a designer. And I'm pretty sure you probably remember in like at least the first meeting for the second game where everybody was in the Marla lab and everybody was giving their input on how the game should be played.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there was only 4 of us or so that was supposed to be. No, there was 5 of us. That was
5.
that was the game designers. Every single person was putting in their input on how the game should be played, and I put aside our professor and I said, "Yo, dude, this is wrong. Why are the 3D modelers? Why are the artists? Why is everybody putting an input on how the game should be played?" Like, literally the entire class was there putting in their input. And what made that worse is that every single person thought their idea was their baby, and they didn't want to let go of their idea. So it just created like some chaotic environment. And so you had people who did not understand game design, who were trying to be game designers, and they're attached to their crazy babies that they didn't want to let go of. Don't be that.
That's why when year 3 came around, I had to come in and basically throw down the hammer and say, all right, we are not going to do that anymore. We have to have a structure. We have to have a society if this is going to have any kind of success.
Yeah. So whether you are the lead designer or just taking part in a team of designers, or whether as long as you're designing, you still got to remember to set your ego aside. Yes.
Also, just because your idea is cool to you doesn't mean it's cool to everybody.
Or anybody.
Not necessarily good or even valid, but cool, because somebody might think that a half dog, half cat riding a motorcycle with a pink mohawk with, this is starting to sound cool to me. So
this sounds pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, something's gonna be cool.
That's just weird.
But the point is, I've seen the internet, and not everything is cool to everybody.
No,
certainly not.
But yeah, when you talk to playtester and you're interviewing them, don't let them hurt your feelings. Don't defend your game design choices, or don't explain to them. If you have to explain your game design choices, it's like explaining a punchline. You shouldn't have to explain a punchline. So yeah. Anything else we want to cover before wrapping up the discussion on playtesting?
Not that I can think of.
Noah?
I think we've pretty much touched on everything that I can come up with. This has been a very thorough list of stuff to go over.
There's only one last thing I want to mention. One thing that really doesn't need any play testing at all. I mean, it's pretty solid on its own. And this thing is called DreamHost, which is a web service that offers unlimited storage, unlimited bandwidth, user-friendly interface that doesn't need playtesting at all. They're optimized to use content managers such as WordPress and many more features. All that just for $7.95 US a month. That's cheaper than Netflix, and better yet, if during the month of Game Design Month, you can use the promo code out of continues. That's one word, no spaces. Away the set fee gets your free domain registration. That's unbelievable. Playtest.
The best money is free money.
Exactly.
I mean, I run a couple websites and manage a couple domains, and free domain. That's significant.
Yeah, free domain for the first year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I might go do that myself.
Quick announcement. iTunes, we can use iTunes reviews. If you are an iTunes user, please leave a review. It's one of the single most helpful things you can do for the podcast. If you cannot leave a review for whatever reason, you can still help us out by going ping on my phone. I should silence that crap. So you can also help us out by sharing the podcast on social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, whatever. Tell your mom, tell a friend. If you don't like this podcast, then tell an enemy. And let's move on. Let's talk about some news.
Well, I'm going to interrupt real quick and say that I need to take my dog out real quick, so I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So, Noah.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about some news without Adrian. And here is the first news that I have on our list of news, and that is Destiny 2. The official gameplay reveal trailer has been dropped, and we have a September 8th release date. What did you think about this trailer? Did you watch it?
I actually haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Oh, okay. Are you hyped for this? Are you ready to see the trailer? Because we're not going to show it on the podcast.
Well, personally, actually, I do a lot more tabletop gaming nowadays than digital gaming. So actually, Adrian would definitely be the one to ask about this. But from my knowledge of Destiny in the past, and looking to see what they could possibly do with it in the future, I think there's definitely a good chance that there's a reason to be hyped up about it. I think what they've done in the past has been pretty solid game work, and I wouldn't expect anything less in the future.
Yeah, I haven't played the first Destiny game, mainly because I just got a PS4 like a few weeks ago, and I didn't want to play it on PS3 because that's not the real Destiny. Why do I want to play like the last gen version of the game? So I didn't play the first one. And from what I hear, the game was pretty good, except it lacked story because they put it in weird places like online and weird places like that. I mean, it looks like they have something going on as far as a story in this trailer. I mean, they have characters from, I think, the first game, I believe. I have no idea. I'm not too sure.
Well,
but
I don't have any more knowledge in that than you do, but I can definitely tell you having good characters and good story development in the game, in any game, regardless of what other kind of content you have, will always bring more engagement to a player. Yeah. Being able to immerse yourself in the world more and actually care about your character and what's happening always adds more.
Yeah, and they have Nathan Fillion's character in this trailer. Everyone likes
Nathan returned.
Hey,
maybe we can get some real commentary.
We stalled long enough for you to talk about Destiny 2.
Oh, Destiny 2. I am ready for Destiny 2.
What do you think about this trailer?
I think the trailer was pretty telling of what we can expect from this game, and that you'll be able to do far more with your guardians this time than you were able to in the first one. I think that was one of my primary problems with the first one, is that as cool and as powerful as I felt, I didn't feel like I could do a whole lot very often. And I think they're giving you a new slew of abilities to just kind of make you feel more active.
Okay, that makes sense. So, like, did you just not have very many abilities available at a single time in the first game?
It didn't really feel like it. Like the gunslinger, when you took the explosive, I can't remember what the name of it, the golden gun super. Um, you never really got anything extra on top of that other than you had your special grenade. Like that's kind of what everyone had, was a melee attack, your grenade, and your special, which isn't bad. It just kind of feels very limited in a world where just about every other game gives you 4 abilities to use. Well, I guess your ultimate, well, no, just what your ultimate was, what the golden gun is. So you still pretty much got 3 main abilities. But more things nowadays will give you 4 and often 5.
One of my critiques with Borderlands was that every character basically felt the same, other than having like one ability difference. Because like every character had their special move that they can pull off, but other than that, they all like basically felt the same. And
See,
you describing Destiny sound, it reminds me of Borderlands. Like there's really not much of a difference between the characters.
I would say they both suffer from the same problem, but in reverse from each other. So whereas Destiny's shooting is the same for just about everybody, but their abilities are really what set the classes apart. And then whereas in Borderlands, your primary ability is what sets your class apart, but all of your talents that you took really kind of more heavily impacted the way that you played your character, whether it was from how you abused shield regeneration mechanics or health regen or increased rate of fire. There were all kinds of ways to break systems within Borderlands that you relied upon. Whereas in Destiny, it's your ability to shoot primarily, layered in with your skill of management for all of your extra skills.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So I know you wanted to drop this news article, but I just wanted to mention it real quick. So Phantom Dust. This is a game that came out on the original Xbox. There were dozens of us that played this game. Dozens. And it was an amazing game. But like I said, dozens of us played this game. And now it is re-released. It's on Xbox One and it's on PC, Windows 10 at least. It is for free. You can go to the Windows 10 store and you can be like, oh, there's Phantom Dust right there. I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to boot it up and I'm going to close it. Yeah, so
Riveting.
So yeah, Phantom Dust is available for free right now. You can get it, and I highly recommend it because this game is awesome. Adrian, do you like Magic the Gathering?
I do.
Now,
Well, I did. Yes.
what if I told you you can take the rules of Magic the Gathering and implement it into a third-person action game that is very anime inspired, with like shooting laser beams and stuff like that. Energy
I would say that I'd have to take a look at it.
Then you'd have to take a look at Phantom Dust.
Very interesting, because I am downloading it right now.
Because this game it's literally like nothing else. I can sit here and try to explain it to you all day and you still won't understand it until you actually download it and play it. And I mean, it's free. You're not losing anything. Plus, you know, they've up-resed it. It's widescreen now. It's HD, so graphics are more crisp. It's not a remaster, so it's not like they redid all the graphics and redid the models and everything. It looks like it's the same models, just higher resolution, probably new textures maybe. I'm not sure, but either way, check it out.
If anything,
This game is
anything
awesome.
improved, right? If anything, improving the frame rate is a really big deal.
Yeah, that too. It looks good. I ran it for a little bit. It looks very good, but I really love this game. Check it out.
Like I said, I've got it downloading right now, so I will probably take a peek at that tomorrow.
Next news we have on here. So Rumor Patrol, Far Cry 5 story and setting detail leak. So I got like a newer article over here. So basically, today there's been some short teasers. What the heck is going on down there? Maybe I should get that off the screen.
Yeah, you might
Yeah,
want to check your article, Staffa.
yeah. There's some questionable advertisements on this on this page. But anyway, so Far Cry 5, there's some teasers released today. Seems that Far Cry 5 is taking place in Montana, and it looks like there's some like psycho right wing extremist hunters that are in this game. What are your thoughts on having these type of enemies in this? I mean, like personally, I think that Far Cry has been really good at having interesting enemies, like with Voss and Pagan Min in the past. But having some crazy right wing extremists, I think I'm ready to shoot some hillbillies in the face. I don't know. I don't know about you guys.
I'm gonna be kind of hesitant on this one because it's gonna be very dependent on how they portray these people, in addition to just kind of an overall personal feeling of saturation in the market of these kind of psycho killer kind of games. Because I mean, off the top of my head, you've got the Friday the 13th game that's coming out, I think next week. You've got Dead by Daylight. You've got you've got this one now. You've got Resident Evil 7. You've got Outlast. Like, it just feels like there's so much of the slasher genre kind of making a comeback that, while I appreciate it, I worry that it's going to feel stale very soon. Kind of like how Zombies has long past reached its expiration date.
I see.
But
So
yeah,
Noah, I know you're not extremist. I wouldn't, from what I know of you, you're not extremist, but I know you are.
No, I wouldn't consider myself an extremist.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I know you are a God loving person.
That is correct.
So how do you feel about like having crazy extremists as like main character or like main antagonist in the game? Because like personally, like, you know, as a Muslim, like I roll my eyes when I see like crazy Islamic extremists. How do you feel about this?
So my opinion is actually really exactly the same for this in comparison to if it were an Islamic extremist in a game. I mean, no matter what your beliefs are, if you are actually doing terroristic things, then you need to be stopped. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe. If you are just spontaneously killing people for no reason, then you need to be stopped. If you're doing horrific things, then that's just the fact of the matter. That's not okay. And you need to be either apprehended and incapacitated if possible, or put down if necessary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's portrayed as actually a crazy person doing horrific, crazy things, then I have no problem with it.
Yeah, it seems It
If
seems like
that,
from the teases, it's like Westboro Baptist Church level.
gotcha. Um, even that I don't know. I have mixed opinions on. So I absolutely do not agree with the overwhelming majority of the things that the Westboro Baptist Church says or believes by any means at all. However, I have yet to see any actual terroristic evil acts from them. Like, I've not seen them actually burn any homosexual people, even though they say that's what should be done. I've never seen them actually do that. So to me, there's a difference between freedom of speech and being able to say whatever you want and having the freedom to do so, even if you happen to believe terrible things. You have the freedom, I believe, to voice your opinion as long as you are not actually doing said terrible things.
Yeah.
So if it's being portrayed in a way that these are actually people who believe horrible things and are doing horrible things, then I don't have a problem with it. If it's just people saying that this specific group of people should be burned at the stake and they're not actually doing anything, then I have more of an issue with it, because that's really just, that comes down to people's words are not action. There's a very big difference between the two of those. So I think it, like Adrian was saying, it really comes down to exactly how these enemies are portrayed in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've played Outlast 2 or looked at anything like that, but there's a very, very large amount of what would be considered by the games world to be Christian information and setting, but it's all in a very twisted and reinterpreted way that kind of just uses the concept of Christianity as its framework and then builds its own story within it. So it's using it as a cheap way to get attention as opposed to a way to really create something unique and original.
Yeah, and just from a narrative structure perspective, I take issue with that. I mean, regardless of what your basis is, if you're just going to take the lazy way out and use somebody else's thoughts and ideas and then just build a lazy narrative off of that, then I think that's kind of the low baller way to get out of the situation, as opposed to writing an actual engaging narrative and formulating your own unique ideas to engage your audience. I think that's the higher road in general in narrative development for game design, or even for movies or books or whatever. If you can develop an original narrative, I think that's the better approach than to take something that already exists and just try to twist it in a way that you can get an easy narrative out of basically a headline concept, a news catch your eye concept.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about this page that doesn't want me to see it because I have an ad blocker. So, Resident Evil, the final chapter, the Resident Evil, the Ragnarok, Resident Evil, the end of all ends. That's what they're going to keep naming these Resident Evil movies, because obviously they're not going to end them.
No.
So Resident Evil heading back to theaters with a reboot because these movies make so much money. People keep watching them. They're cheap movies to make, and they bring in tons of cash. So they're gonna just keep making more. So even though the last one was called The Final Chapter, and the one before that was called something else, and they had the Apocalypse, they have all these like subtitles that basically mean it's the end. It's not
until
the end
next
of Resident
time.
Evil.
Yeah, it's the end for now.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna keep making more Resident Evil movies. Surprise. I don't have anything else to add on that. Do you guys have anything you want to say?
Not shocked.
I'm okay with them remaking these as long as they go back and actually basically give them the Harry Potter treatment. Go back to the original source material and make it frame for frame what happened in the game.
They won't.
They won't.
They won't.
But, I mean, is it wrong to have dreams?
Yes.
Make them realistic, at least. At least a little bit realistic, like grounded in something besides complete fantasy, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
Adrian, come on. Where were you doing a discussion? Don't don't defend your baby. You gotta let go. You gotta put your ego aside.
And let them make some crap movie.
Talk about some crap movie. I have the feeling this isn't going to be too great.
So, Uncharted movie is now a prequel and will star Tom Holland as a young Nathan Drake. So, how good is Tom Holland's no, 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 no? Every
right.
time I expect him to say no, 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 no. Every time something goes wrong and blows up and falls down and crumbles and etc.
Here's the thing. Tom Holland is going to make a fantastic Spider-Man. He really is. He's got everything he needs to play fantastic Spider-Man. I don't know that I see him as Nathan Drake. And looking at the story timeline for Uncharted, I'm not sure where you're going to put this. Because it's a prequel to the first movie. But prior to the first movie, Drake is hanging out with his brother. Or the first movie, yeah, he's hanging out with his brother. So unless his brother's also going to be in this movie, then I don't know. Like his brother and Sully would have to both be in here, so it's not really a prequel to everything that happens.
I don't know.
I'm hesitant.
I haven't played Uncharted 4 yet. I played the first hour of it 2 weeks ago. It's just I've been really busy lately.
Oh, there it says right there, an adaptation of the flashback sequence in 3 where he meets Sully.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I'll keep my expectations cautiously realistic.
Finally.
I don't know why they wanna make young Nathan Drake. I want to see the movie where they make old Nathan Drake. Who should play old Nathan Drake? Sylvester Stallone.
Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Harrison Ford. And yeah, perfect. And just call
Uncharted is just Indiana Jones.
Uncharted
anyway.
Jones.
No hat and a t-shirt. Come on.
All right, let's move on and wrap this up with the final announcement that's not video game related, but movie related. Comic related. So, and I like those things, so I'm going to talk about it. And Mr. Tom Hardy, who has played Bane in Batman Rises or The Dark Knight Rises, he is now confirmed to play as Venom in the upcoming Venom movie in 2018 that's being produced by Sony's Marvel universe. So it's not the MCU. It's a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man.
Fair enough. I mean, I can see Tom Hardy doing a really good job in this. I've always liked him in anything that I've seen him in. He was obviously fantastic in Mad Max, and he did a great job in The Revenant. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else he's got in him.
He is a good actor, but I don't see why movie studios wanna cast him as these giant villains when the dude is 5'9".
Well,
he
isn't it really more about the thickness?
He portrays a big, strong man very well, though, in those platform boots.
And if there's one thing that Bruno Mars has taught me is you can make anybody look tall from the right camera angle.
Oh, goodness.
I mean,
Can't say you're wrong.
I maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but the dude's shorter than me, and I don't consider myself giant at all.
I think he looks bigger than you in this picture.
It's because he got the right camera angle.
Yeah. Wait. What's up, fools?
His neck is bigger than you are.
Yo, you talking smack about? All right, let's wrap this up. Listener feedback. We have no listener feedback this week. If you want to write into the podcast, first you can turn the camera towards me more. There we go. Right, the podcast. That's podcastatafricannews.com. And let's wrap it up with some shout outs and plugs. You guys want to plug the Big Score or whatever?
You can definitely check Noah and I out at neverending.games. That is the website. So like instead of a .com, it's .games. It's pretty cool. We are going to be at Indie PopCon here at the beginning of July, and we will be launching a Kickstarter for our first big board game release with our company, Neverending Games, and that will be for looking for a group. So swing by the convention booth and come check us out.
All right. If you enjoy what we've been hearing, support us by liking us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, leave an iTunes review, subscribe to the Google Play Music. You can contact by email us podcast@adcontinues.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/adcontinues. All those things that I just said can be found on the website. That's www.adcontinues.com. You can give me a tweet that I am at SayedStafa. That's at SayedStafa. And do you guys have Twitters that you want to share, Adrian?
You can check me out at Adrian Make Games on Twitter, and that's pretty much it for me.
Noah?
I don't do Twitter. I think I have an account, but I don't think I've logged in it for 2 or 3 years.
And does Neverending Games have a Twitter?
Yes, I believe it's at NE Games.
All right. And with that said, I'd like to thank my guest host for joining me today, Noah.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Adrian.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here again.
Thank you for waiting on me. Got off work really late.
It's all good. I appreciate you working with our schedules.
With that said, I'm your host, Stafa, and I will see you guys next week on the final week of Game Design Month. And if you are watching this on YouTube, click on the icon on my face to subscribe, and then you can click over here for last week's episode, and then over here for the episode before that. Bye.
Bye, everybody.